the final stage in this series of videos is the drafting environment. So let's look at taking the frame base and building apart from that. So if we go to the file menu and we go have a look down here, we've got the assembly of active model, which we did earlier, but you can also do a drawing of active model. So that takes it through. You specify which draft file you want and go OK. And we set it up so that it runs the drawing view wizard. And you can see here we can sort of use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out to set the size that we're after. And I'm just going to sort of break here. I could go in and add in extra views, and maybe I will do that so we can drag those off. This is third angle projection. So as you'll see, these are all linked to each other. So if I move one around, it's going to adjust the others. The isometric is a separate one, and we can treat that differently. So we could scale that smaller if we need the space. And we can actually go in and modify the shading. So we'll have shaded with edges. And you'll see immediately that that has a grey border around it. That means that that drawing view is out of date. So if ever you open a draft file and see a grey border, then you'll need to do an update. I'm just going to update this individual drawing view, and you'll see that we've now got that, which has the shading as requested. If that had been coloured in the part, then that would show up in here. So as I said, under settings, options, you'll see that I have got it set up as third angle. I've set that up in my draft template. So that will always be the case. Typically we work in third angle here. So you may want to set that up. The other thing that I have been and done, which sort of makes sense to me, is under the tools menu, the view menu, you've got styles, and under your dimension styles I've created a new one. So I've gone into ISORAD and done a new based on that one, based on the ISO millimeters. And basically what I've done is I've gone through into the text environment here, and I've made my orientation for the dimension to be horizontal. So basically when I am dimensioning, and again you can set that up in your template to be always the case. So smart dimension, I can dimension from here to here. This is an A3, so that dimension size is a little bit small, so I'm going to change that to ×2, and we can place that on the drawing. For my majority of my dimensions, I'm going to use the ISO millimeter one, but if I use that on a radial dimension, the text is set up to align with the dimension, so I prefer to see a dimension hanging off in this sort of fashion, and it just reads better for my preference. So one of the things you can do, I'm not sure, modeling sometimes isn't the way that you would dimension for production, and there's an option in here to retrieve dimensions. So the way this works is it will retrieve any dimensions that are drawn on the plane of the detail view. So you can see that it's given me a hell of a lot of dimensions, and I'd rather not do that, but you can sort of use that in occasion. So you can see that this one here works a little bit better. What I might do is click on this dimension here and just drag the dimension outside of the dimension lines, and I will drag this one up to sit in between. So that can be useful, and it just depends on how the model was created. So from here, I will go through and just sort of add some other dimensions on here. So I will use, say, a distance between dimension. So this one works off a datum, so that will be my datum. I've already defined that one, but we could come in and then add in a dimension, say, to this point here, and then another one to, so because we've defined our datum, it's only the one dimension that you have to define, and then these two then become linked together. So there's a spacing setting on here which can define where it sits. We could add in, say, another dimension, so I'll use smart dimension. Try not to go to the key points. It's just slightly better to avoid that, because it can sometimes get skewed. So I'm still on ISO-RAD, so while we're doing it in the horizontal plane, it's not really a problem. So in here, you'll see that we have that radial dimension on here, which I'm going to drag out. Personally, I don't like the long tail on here, so if I escape out and click on the dimension and go to properties, and under lines and coordinate, we've got this option here to connect it. And if I come off there, you can see it's not going right back to the center of the arc there. So it just looks a little bit cleaner on the model. So then let's change back to our ISO millimeter, because what I want to do is I want to do a smart dimension. So I'm just going to zoom in on here. So I want a dimension between here and here. Sorry, I didn't change that. So you can see the difference here, and it just leaves it a little bit cleaner. And then I can go between here and here and add in this dimension on this end, then the same at the other end. So still using the smart dimension, we can drag that out, and if I want to, I can go back to my ISO-RAD. You can always go back and sort of re-change these at any time, just by clicking on the dimension and changing the dimension style to whatever you need it to be. So as I said, this one is not how I would prefer it. So if I drop that one back to an ISO-RAD and just maybe draw that in a little bit closer to the model. Smart dimension also is dimension element, but if I hit the A key, I can change this to being a driving or driven dimension. And again, you know, this one makes sense to be a ISO-RAD style dimension. Let's change this back to ISO millimeter, and we can add some dimensions on this view here. Again, coming back to key points doesn't always work nicely. So we've got 7 mil on there. We can go from here to this line here and place that one in. And again, I could have done this with a distance between dimension, that will give me all off the one datum, so it's sort of less input. So then we can add in dimension out here. I can click on here, hit the A key for an arc. That allows me to define how I want to place that dimension. And switching back, I can add in a dimension on here and on here. And then I will add in a dimension on there. And then I will go back to my distance between dimension. So that's a shift control right mouse click to pan. So we want to come from there, and I'm going to use a intersection point on there. So you just got to hover over each line as you go. Then I want to come to the hole here, so you just need to click on the edge of the hole. And finally I will come to this line here, and as you can see we're sort of then coming into the drawing border. So what I might want to do here is break alignment set, so that then means it's free to move in relation to the other dimension. Otherwise, if I try and adjust it, it's going to run into the model. So obviously that does it on all of them. Let's add in a radial dimension on here. So we can come up here or we can come down here. So I'm just going to drop this in here, and what I can do is there is an option in here called copy attributes. So you can copy the style, prefix, or prefix and style. So I want to copy that one onto that one, and I will need to also go into properties and disconnect that as well. So this probably gives me most of the dimensions that I'm after. I will add in that radius on there, and from here what I want to do is I want to maybe take some section views and show some of the detail in here and in here. So rather than trying to show all this detail on the one drawing, I'm going to add a second sheet, so we can click on the sheet option here. And if you're not sure what you're working with, this is an A2 wide sheet. You can just switch between A2, A3, and that will change the sheet size for you as well. So that again is set up in your template on how you want that to behave. So if we go back to our view wizard, I'm going to work on the same part, so I'll just hit OK. And rather than using, actually I might just place that view in the middle for the moment and go principal view. So I'm going to take a top end view and a bottom end view, and then if I click on here I'm going to delete that one. just so that I can see how they sort of relate. So working on this view here, I feel that the detail on the underside is not needed, so I can click on the view in here and go into properties, and up come the properties under the display tab. I want to hide the hidden edge, so go OK, and that drops all of that information out, which I don't need to show the area in here. So just using a smart dimension, I can click on the line here, and I want to change that to 2 times as well. And click on the line here and just drag that out to the side. I can then add a dimension on here. If I hover over that, it's going to align it. And then I can add in a dimension on here, hitting the A key. Gives me that definition. I might just take that out there and drag this one up just for a little bit more clarity. I might want to put some centre lines in here, so we've got some options in here, so we can go centre mark on one of these circles, which then sort of labels that, and I can do a centre line. We've got a few options in here. I'm going to do by 2 lines, so I'm going to pick that one, and that gives me a centre line. Then if I hit the escape key, I can then just drag that out to the size that I want it to be. And likewise, we will do one for the other slot as well. That one doesn't need to be too big. So we'll add in a dimension from here to the circle. Then we'll drop that in here. And what I'd also like to do is a sectional view on here, just to give a little bit more detail. We will go and create a cutting plane. Now the cutting plane needs to be linked to a drawing view, so I'll click on the drawing view, and then it puts you on the line command, and we can specify a distance, sort of say from here out to here, and that's only going to give you the section through that line there. So you close the cutting plane, and then you choose which direction you want to view it from. So we'll choose there, and then I will go and create the section view, and we'll just drag that down. Now, because we've got the other view in there, what I want to do is I want to just click on there, and I want to turn off the maintain alignment, and then I can drag that off to the side. Probably running out of space a little bit, so we'll make all of these on a scale of 1 to 1, and that gives me room to add in the extra dimensions that I need on here. So if we zoom in over here, I can add my centers on there. I can then put some dimensions on here. So I will go basically, actually, I will put some. So this is the boss in here. So basically, I want to use a symmetric diameter dimension, and what I would like to do is you start off by choosing your center line, and then you select the first dimension, and then using the same center line we can select the outside dimension there. And if I escape out of that, I can then sort of drag that dimension off to the side. So going back to my smart dimension, I can choose this baseline here to a point there, change this back to ISO millimeter so that the dimension looks a bit tidier. And I'll also add in that dimension there, and I'll just drag that dimension down from the side. And I would like to place a dimension on here to give the depth of that. Then I would also like to add in a dimension from there to that point there. And then what I'd like to do is create some section views on here to sort of help define dimension these points here. Let's start by adding in some dimensions. So that distance here is 20 mil, which has been dimensioned on another one, but we'll add in that dimension again just for clarity. I can also put in a dimension to that point there, and then dimension the length. So if I hover over that, I can align those two. I can do the same along the bottom for the other two slots. Just to dimension those. We've got a couple of little cutouts in here, and again, I think it would look better if I can actually just go to properties on here and turn off the hidden edges. It just makes it a clearer image to look at. So I'm going to create some extra cutting planes on here. So because the drawing view was already selected, I don't need to select it, so I can just place my first cutting plane through here and close, and it makes more sense to have this view over looking away from the rest of the detail. So we can create a section view over this side. That means you don't have all the information hidden behind. Then we can create a new cutting plane through the section here. So I am just looking at coming through here and return out there. So again, I'll have it going in that direction and have it in that direction there. So if I create a third one, I'll create a third one through these slots here. And I'll keep it consistent and go in the same direction. So for the other two cutting planes, what I would like to do is choose this one here, and I'll have it as a section only view. So basically it cuts everything out, so it's basically a slice right through that cutting plane there. And likewise I'll do this one and put this over here, and it just gives it a cleaner look so that we can actually add in our dimensions quite nicely. So I can add in a width on that slot of 4 mil and a depth of 2.5, and on this one I will go between the two slots and add a dimension on here to define the size of that. And on this one we've got, again, we'd like to put in a center line, so I'm going to take it between these two lines here. It gives me a nice center line, and like we did before, we can use the symmetric diameter dimension. So if I click on here and here, we can have that dimension, we can have that dimension, and that one there. So like we did before, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to break alignment set and drag this one out to the opposite side and drag these two back in to fit the page. Then we have some other dimensions that we need to add. And I'm going to add in one on here as well. So like with all the other pieces of information, we can just drag this down and out of the way so that we can still see where we're at. So this is the end of the part drafting, and I hope you've found this informative.